There was a 48-inch water main that was damaged about 20 miles to the north of the Sandy Springs campus. I called the water strike team. Within about 40 minutes of that phone call, people from First Water began to show up and get our Outpost 12 up and running. It came up and ran fine. They arrived with a First Water product called the Responder that they were able to put on ice machines, coffee makers, beverage counters in the cafeteria, places where we would be able to make and keep the hospital supplied in ice. On day 2 of that water emergency, it became pretty clear that we were going to need to continue running these ice machines with the responders. They operated flawlessly, and these are the high volume ice machines in the kitchen area. Hundreds of pounds of ice going through those ice machines every day. The responders worked without any difficulty at all. We never had a problem with our First Water equipment at all. On day 3, which was a Sunday, we were looking into going into Monday and interrupting the surgery schedule. We were making plans to bring in more responders to hook up to sterilizing equipment, dishwashing equipment, all of which are required to be able to maintain a normal surgery schedule. But the information that we got from Atlanta Water at that time was that they were going to be able to repair the equipment, so we didn't have to go to that. But our First Water equipment kept our hospital up and running at a normal level through the entire weekend. It was interesting to me to discover that this water strike team existed. I'm thankful to the folks at GEMA, the Georgia Emergency Management Agency, and GMAG, the Georgia Mutual Aid Group, for being forward-thinking enough to develop this concept and roll it out in time for us to be able to use. Turns out it's the only water strike team in the country. In an area where we're prone to hurricanes or prone to tornadoes and then older infrastructure, it's nice to know that when we get into a tight with water, we can depend on the Georgia Mutual Aid Group and GEMA to activate this strike team to come and help us out. It's money well spent. As with anything in emergency preparedness, you need to have your own plans and your own activities in place. So it's important for emergency planners to not think that this is a government resource that they can count on. Yes, it's a government resource, but it's a very limited government resource because it's equipment intensive, it's manpower intensive. So if you're anticipating the needs of your facility for water, you need to be looking at water purification systems and equipment on your own, so that you have those things in place on your own, and not be depending on the government to come bail you out when the water quits.
This strike team provided a level of comfort to us which was immeasurable during this event. We were fortunate enough to have already purchased the Outpost. Had we not pre-purchased that device, it would have been a little bit more problematic. Having the strike team being able to show up and having the availability of some of their smaller units was good. But I have to stop and think, what would happen had the strike team already been deployed someplace else or had not been available. I would not have been able to get the smaller units for my ice machines. So I think it's incumbent upon us as an organization to get with our purchasing folks and buy some of these units pre-event so that they're ready to go. What was nice about the strike team was having them be able to come in and be our technical guidance on how to set these up. We had the strike team members at the incident command meetings. I was an incident commander for one of the night watches, and I had a strike team member there with me. My monitoring things, making sure things stayed online, if there were any problems that we were having, as well as the fire department stood by and held our hand during this event. So it's nice to have the strike team be able to hold your hand, but we also recognize that they may not always be available to us. So it's real important, at least in my mind, for us to have the large unit, which we already have purchased, and then to give some serious capital consideration for purchasing some smaller units, especially if you have some high acuity areas and if you need to stay in business. Sustainability means, are you going to run your surgery schedule? Are you going to go on diversion? A nasty word in healthcare. So being able to pre-position some of these, or at least have the supplies available to us, I think is going to be important in the future. I think having this type of emergency purification water system would be something that every facility should seriously consider.